Robert Louis Stevenson. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Part 2. Search for Mr. Hyde. That evening, Mr. Utterson came home to his house. He lived alone and felt sad. He sat down to dinner but did not enjoy it. It was his habit on Sundays after dinner to sit near the fire. He read a serious religious book at his desk. He stayed there until the church clock nearby struck 12. Then he went to bed in a calm and thankful way. On this night, however, as soon as the table was cleared, he took a candle and went into his office. There he opened his safe. From the most private place he took a document. On the envelope it said, "Dr. Jekyll's will." He sat down and looked at it with a worried face. The will was written by Dr. Jekyll himself. Mr. Utterson kept it, but he had not helped to write it. It said that if Henry Jekyll died, all his things would go to his friend and benefactor, Edward Hyde. It also said that if Dr. Jekyll disappeared or was absent without explanation for more than 3 months, Edward Hyde would take his place. This would happen at once. Hyde would have no duties except to pay a few small sums to the people in the doctor's house. This document had long troubled the lawyer. He did not like it as a lawyer, and as a man who preferred normal and reasonable life. He thought strange ideas were improper. Before, he was angry because he did not know Mr. Hyde. Now he knew him, and this made it worse. It was already bad when the name was only a name he could not learn more about. It was worse when the name became connected with horrible qualities. Out of the unclear ideas that had confused him for so long, there suddenly appeared a clear and terrible image of a devil. "I thought it was madness," he said, as he put the unpleasant paper back into the safe. "And now I begin to fear it is disgrace." Then he blew out his candle, put on a coat, and went towards Cavendish Square. This place was a center of medicine. His friend, the famous Dr. Lanyon, had his house there and saw many patients. If anyone knows, it will be Lanyon, he had thought. The serious butler knew him and welcomed him. He did not have to wait. The butler took him straight from the door to the dining room, where Dr. Lanyon sat alone with his wine. He was a friendly, healthy, neat man with a red face. His hair was already white, even though he was not old. He had a loud and strong manner. When he saw Mr. Utterson, he stood up quickly and welcomed him with both hands. His friendly way seemed a little theatrical, but it was real. The two men were old friends. They had been at school and college together. Both respected themselves and each other. And, what does not always happen, they truly enjoyed being together. After some wandering talk, the lawyer slowly came to the subject that worried him so much. "I suppose, Lanyon," said he, "you and I must be the two oldest friends that Henry Jekyll has." "I wish the friends were younger," laughed Dr. Lanyon. "But I suppose we are." "And what about that? I do not see him much now." "Indeed," said Utterson. "I thought you shared the same interests." "We did," was the reply. "But it is more than 10 years since Henry Jekyll became too strange for me. He started to go wrong in his mind. Of course, I still care about him because of old times, as people say. But I see very little of him, and I have seen very little for a long time." "Such unscientific nonsense," added the doctor, suddenly turning red, "would have separated even Damon and Pythias." This small show of anger actually helped Mr. Utterson. They have only disagreed about some point of science, he thought. He was not interested in science, except in legal matters, so he even added, "It is nothing worse than that." He gave his friend a few seconds to calm down. Then he asked the question he had come to ask. "Have you ever heard of a protege of his, someone called Hyde?" he asked. "Hyde?" repeated Lanyon. "No, I have never heard of him, not in my time." This was all the information the lawyer took with him back to his large, dark bed. There he turned from side to side until the early hours of the morning came. It was a difficult night for his busy mind, working in the dark and full of questions. 6 o'clock rang on the bells of the church near Mr. Utterson's house, and he was still thinking about the problem. Until now, it had only interested his mind. But now his imagination was also involved, or rather, controlled by it. As he lay awake in the dark room with closed curtains, Mr. Enfield's story passed through his mind like a series of bright pictures. He saw the many lamps of a city at night. Then he saw a man walking quickly. Then he saw a child running from the doctor's house. Then they met, and the man walked over the child and went on without caring about her cries. Or he saw a room in a rich house where his friend lay asleep, dreaming and smiling. Then the door of the room opened, the bed curtains were pulled back, the sleeper woke up, and suddenly there stood a figure next to him. This figure had power over him, and even at that late hour he had to get up and obey it. This figure in both scenes stayed in the lawyer's mind all night. If he fell asleep for a moment, he saw it again, moving quietly through sleeping houses, or walking faster and faster through the bright streets of the city, until it made him dizzy. At every street corner, it knocked down a child and left her crying. Still, the figure had no face that he could recognize. Even in his dreams it had no face, or a face that changed and disappeared before his eyes. So in the lawyer's mind there grew a strong, almost too strong, desire to see the real Mr. Hyde. He thought that if he could only see him once, the mystery would become clearer, and perhaps disappear completely, as often happens when strange things are examined closely. He might understand why his friend preferred him or was under his control, whatever the reason was. He might even understand the strange part of the will. At least it would be a face worth seeing. The face of a man who had no mercy. A face that only needed to appear to make even calm Enfield feel a strong and lasting hatred. From that time on, Mr. Utterson began to watch the door in the small street of shops. In the morning before work, at noon when he was busy and had little time, at night under the foggy city moon, in all kinds of light and at all times, whether the street was empty or full, the lawyer could be found at his chosen place. If he is Mr. Hyde, he had thought, I shall be Mr. Seek. And at last his patience was rewarded. It was a fine, dry night. There was frost in the air. The streets were as clean as a ballroom floor. The lamps, not moving in any wind, made a regular pattern of light and shadow. By 10 o'clock, when the shops were closed, the small street was very empty. In spite of the low, distant noise of London all around, it was very quiet. Small sounds could be heard from far away. Sounds from inside the houses could be clearly heard on both sides of the street. And the sound of any person coming could be heard long before they arrived. Mr. Utterson had been standing at his place for some minutes when he noticed a strange, light step coming closer. During his nightly walks, he had become used to the way a single person's footsteps can suddenly be heard clearly, even when they are still far away, separate from the general noise of the city. But his attention had never been caught so strongly before. With a strong and almost superstitious feeling of success, he stepped back into the entrance of the court. The steps came quickly nearer and suddenly sounded louder as they turned into the street. The lawyer, looking out from the entrance, soon saw what kind of man he was. He was small and very simply dressed. Even from a distance, there was something about him that the watcher strongly disliked. but he walked straight to the door, crossing the street to save time. As he came, he took a key from his pocket, like a man coming home. Mr. Utterson stepped forward and touched him on the shoulder as he passed. "Mr. Hyde, I think." Mr. Hyde stepped back with a sharp breath, but his fear lasted only a moment. He did not look the lawyer in the face, but he answered calmly, "That is my name. What do you want?" "I see you are going in," said the lawyer. "I am an old friend of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Utterson of Gaunt Street. You must have heard my name. And since I met you so conveniently, I thought you might let me come in." "You will not find Dr. Jekyll. He is not at home," replied Mr. Hyde, putting the key into the lock. Then suddenly, but still without looking up, he asked, "How did you know me?" "On your side," said Mr. Utterson. "Will you do me a favor?" "With pleasure," replied the other. "What shall it be?" "Will you let me see your face?" asked the lawyer. Mr. Hyde seemed to hesitate. Then, as if he had a sudden thought, he turned to face him with a defiant look. The two men looked at each other closely for a few seconds. "Now I will know you again," said Mr. Utterson. "It may be useful." "Yes," said Mr. Hyde. "It is good that we have met. And by the way, you should have my address." And he gave him a number of a street in Soho. "Good God," thought Mr. Utterson. "Has he also been thinking about the will?" But he kept his feelings inside and only made a short sound to show he had heard the address. "And now," said the other, "how did you know me?" "By description," was the reply. "Whose description?" "We have common friends," said Mr. Utterson. "Common friends," repeated Mr. Hyde in a rough voice. "Who are they?" "Jekyll, for example," said the lawyer. "He never told you," cried Mr. Hyde, becoming angry. "I did not think you would lie." "Come," said Mr. Utterson. "That is not polite language." The other gave a wild, angry laugh. The next moment, very quickly, he unlocked the door and disappeared into the house. The lawyer stood there for a while after Mr. Hyde had gone, looking very troubled. Then he slowly began to walk up the street. Every few steps he stopped and touched his forehead like a man who is confused. The problem he was thinking about was not easy to solve. Mr. Hyde was pale and small. He gave a feeling of deformity, but there was no clear physical problem. He had an unpleasant smile. He behaved with a strange mix of fear and boldness, almost like a killer. He spoke in a low, rough, and slightly broken voice. All these things were against him, but even all of them together could not explain the strong feeling of dislike, fear, and disgust that Mr. Utterson felt. "There must be something else," said the confused gentleman. "There is something more, if only I could name it. God help me, the man hardly seems human. Something primitive, perhaps? Or is it like the old story of Dr. Fell? Or is it the clear sign of an evil soul that shows through his body? I think it is the last. Oh, my poor old friend Henry Jekyll. If I have ever seen the mark of Satan on a face, it is on that of your new friend." Around the corner from the small street, there was a square of old, beautiful houses. Most of them were now in poor condition. They were divided into flats and rooms for many different kinds of people: map makers, architects, dishonest lawyers, and agents of unclear businesses. One house, however, the second from the corner, was still used as one whole home. At its door, which showed wealth and comfort, though it was now dark except for a small light above the door, Mr. Utterson stopped and knocked. A well-dressed older servant opened the door. "Is Dr. Jekyll at home, Poole?" asked the lawyer. "I will check, Mr. Utterson," said Poole. As he spoke, he led the visitor into a large, comfortable hall with a low ceiling and a stone floor. It was warmed, like a country house, by a bright, open fire. It was furnished with expensive oak cabinets. "Will you wait here by the fire, sir? Or shall I bring a light in the dining room?" "Here, thank you," said the lawyer, and he moved closer and leaned on the tall metal guard by the fire. This hall, where he was now alone, was one of his friend the doctor's favorite places. Utterson himself often said it was the most pleasant room in London. But tonight he felt a shiver in his body. The face of Hyde stayed strongly in his mind. He felt, which was unusual for him, a kind of sickness and dislike for life. In his dark mood, he seemed to see a threat in the way the firelight moved on the shiny cabinets and in the restless shadows on the ceiling. He felt almost ashamed of his relief when Poole came back and said that Dr. Jekyll was not at home. "I saw Mr. Hyde go in by the old dissecting room, Poole," he said. "Is that all right when Dr. Jekyll is not at home?" "Quite right, Mr. Utterson, sir," replied the servant. "Mr. Hyde has a key." "Your master seems to trust that young man a lot, Poole," said the other thoughtfully. "Yes, sir, he certainly does," said Poole. "We all have orders to obey him." "I do not think I have ever met Mr. Hyde," asked Utterson. "Oh, no, sir. He never eats dinner here," replied the butler. "In fact, we see very little of him in this part of the house. He mostly comes and goes through the laboratory." "Well, good night, Poole." "Good night, Mr. Utterson." And the lawyer went home with a very heavy heart. "Poor Henry Jekyll," he thought. "I am afraid he is in serious trouble. He was wild when he was young. That was a long time ago, of course. But in God's law there is no time limit. Yes, it must be that. The ghost of some old sin, the result of some hidden shame. Punishment comes slowly, years after memory has forgotten and a man has forgiven himself." The lawyer, frightened by this thought, began to think about his own past. He searched his memory carefully, afraid that some old sin might suddenly appear. His past was mostly without blame. Few men could look back at their lives with less fear. But he still felt deeply ashamed of the bad things he had done. At the same time, he felt calm and thankful for the many bad things he had almost done, but did not do. Then, thinking again about his main problem, he began to feel a small hope. This Mr. Hyde, if someone studied him, he thought, must have secrets of his own. Dark secrets, judging by his appearance. Secrets compared to which even Jekyll's worst actions would seem harmless. Things cannot continue like this. It makes me feel cold to think of this man coming like a thief to Henry's bedside. Poor Henry, what a terrible surprise that would be. And there is danger, too. If this Hyde learns about the will, he may become eager to inherit. Yes, I must take action. If Jekyll allows me, he added. If Jekyll will only allow me. Because once again, he clearly saw in his mind the strange parts of the will.